Good afternoon, everyone. Vladimir, let me start by paying tribute to you and to the Ukrainian people. You are fighting not just for Ukraine, but for the freedom and security that is cherished by the British people and by all Europeans every single day. Just a few moments ago here in the United Kingdom, we saw the sentencing of 6 men for Russian-sponsored arson attack on a warehouse in East London. This was a warehouse storing humanitarian aid and satellite equipment destined for Ukraine. We will not tolerate this hostile activity. And it just underlines the point. Your security is our security. What happens on the front line of Donetsk today is shaping our collective future for years to come. And that's why Emmanuel and I brought the Coalition of the Willing together again today. We stand with you, stronger than ever, united behind Ukraine, and united with President Trump in calling for the fighting to stop now, and for the negotiations to begin from the current line of contact. President Trump is right to have imposed sanctions on Russia's oil majors, as the UK has also done, alongside the latest package from the EU. And we must now maintain this pressure. Vladimir, you have said for months that you're ready for a ceasefire and you're ready to meet Putin. Yet he continues to stall and play for time. Putin is the only person who does not want to stop this war. His strikes on civilians this week made that crystal clear once again, targeting energy infrastructure ahead of winter, hitting young children in their nursery, claiming the lives in Kyiv of a 12-year girl and a 6-month-old baby. This is who Putin is. Time after time, he rejects the chance to end the war. In just the last few days, he's rejected the opportunity for talks once again, instead making ludicrous demands for Ukrainian land, which he could not and has not taken by force. Of course, that is a complete non-starter, and it shows yet again that he's not serious about peace. So we've been clear today that we must respond. Working with the US, this coalition is determined to go further than ever to ratchet up the pressure on Putin, from the battlefield to his war economy, because that is the only way to change his mind and push him back to the table. And in our meeting this afternoon, we came together around a clear plan for the rest of this year. First, we will act to take Russian oil and gas off the global market. Last week, the UK became the first country to sanction all of Russia's oil majors. On Wednesday, the US acted decisively to join us, together with further sanctions from the EU. And we're choking off funding for Russia's war machine. And I'm urging others to take these steps too, to go further to reduce their dependencies and incentivise third countries to stop buying these tainted resources. Second, we're determined to push on with the progress on Russia's sovereign assets and unlock billions to help finance Ukraine's defence. The bill for Russia's destruction in Ukraine should be paid by Russia. So we want to move ahead at speed with the work needed to deliver reparation loans and get the funds flowing to Ukraine. Third, we are strengthening Ukraine's air defence to protect its civilians and its energy infrastructure. I announced today that we're accelerating our UK programme to provide Ukraine with more than 5,000 lightweight multi-role missiles. This programme has created hundreds of brilliant jobs in Belfast, and they're working now to deliver an additional 140 missiles ahead of schedule to bolster Ukraine's defences through the depths of winter. Fourth, we will keep up the military pressure on Putin through the continued provision of long-range capabilities. And finally, while now is the time to prioritise pressure, we're also continuing our work on security guarantees, including the multinational force Ukraine, to uphold a just and lasting peace when that day finally comes. Because, and I say it again, Ukraine's future is our future. What happens in the weeks and months ahead is pivotal for the security of the United Kingdom and all our allies across NATO and beyond. So we are determined to act now, to dial up the pressure on Putin and finally bring him to the negotiating table in good faith. Thank you. Now let me hand over to my friend Vladimir.
Thank you so much, Keir. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, Keir, Mette, Dick, Mark, and everyone here, thanks you for today's meeting, today's coalition. These are two important days for us, very important. Today, the meeting of the Coalition of the Willing in London, and the day before there was an EU leaders meeting in Brussels. I thank you guys for all the support and your readiness to keep helping. And today, all the partners confirmed that next year they will continue to support Ukraine, our country, our resilience, especially the financial support, which is crucial. And today, the new Prime Minister of Ukraine joins the coalition for the first time, and all the signals are clear. Thank you. We all see the challenges these days, and the Russians are carrying out a campaign of terror against our energy system, and they really want to make the winter cold a tool of torment and pressure on Ukraine, our people, and on our defense. And Russia's goal hasn't changed. They want to break us, want to break Ukraine, and they are doing everything to achieve it. So that's why our defense means everything that truly stops Russia from killing, destroying, and terrorizing. First, air defense, and today we spoke in detail with our partners about the systems. It's important that our partners focus on what's most practical and effective, and we gave all the details. Second, of course, it's important that everyone agrees the front needs substantial attention, and the focus must be on it, and thank for all the steps of help. And third, we are promoting a more meaningful approach to diplomacy. Diplomacy matters only when it can lead to real decisions. And when it comes to Russia, that dish has many ingredients. The essential ones are real forms of pressure on Russia, sanctions, our long-range capabilities, political pressure, accountability for war crimes, and real actions regarding Russian assets. Today we all agreed sanctions that hit Russian oil infrastructure, Russian oil companies are a big step, and I thank President Trump and all our partners who are implementing this. And we have to apply pressure not only to Rosneft and Lukoil, but to all Russian oil companies like Surgutneftegas and others, and to the shadow fleet and its infrastructure, and to Russia's oil terminals. And we have to implement all we have discussed today about the Russia's shadow fleet. Besides, we are carrying out our own campaign of pressure with drones and missiles, specifically targeting the Russian oil sector. So the long-range capability directly strengthens diplomacy, the more losses Putin suffers on his own territory. The fewer assaults he can carry out on the front line, and the faster he will agree to meaningful diplomacy. That is why we are working to secure Tomahawk cruise missiles, additional Storm Shadow missiles, other capabilities. Thank you very much, Keir, for today's decision. Thank you for your support that you said, and about long range. And there must be no option left for Russia except to end the war and return peace to our country. And of course, I also want to thank our partners for working with us to produce weapons, for investing in our country, for joint projects, and for the agreements we are now implementing. And one more point is Pearl program. I thank for each contribution. Mark, thank you for coordinating this program, for each contribution, and today we agreed to step up in the coming months. Peace is born from pressure on the aggressor, and that is what we must continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vladimir. Mark, can I turn to you?
Yeah, thank you, and good afternoon. And as Keir Starmer and Volodymyr Zelenskiy have said, we just concluded a very productive meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, and I welcome the initiative allies are showing to strengthen our support to Ukraine even further. Just 2 days ago, I was in Washington, where I had a very good meeting with President Trump. The sanctions that the US has placed against Russia's largest oil companies will starve them of revenue and significantly increase the pressure on Putin to come to the negotiating table. And they show once again that President Trump is absolutely committed to end this war and bring a lasting peace to Ukraine. I'm glad that I was able here today to join allies and partners to discuss how we support these peace efforts and how we can increase the pressure on Russia to get there. In Ukraine, Putin is gaining little ground on the battlefield. And where there are marginal gains, they are coming at a huge price. Hundreds of thousands of Russians are dying for Putin's deluded aggression. Ukraine continues defending itself bravely, and our support to them is working. The truth is that Putin is running out of money, troops and ideas. President Trump said it very well. They should stop where they are now. And now is the right time to increase the pressure on Russia, so we can finally get a fair and a just peace for Ukraine. I therefore welcome the recent announcements by European allies and Canada of additional military aid to Ukraine. The developments on the battlefield show that our support to Ukraine is working, and we need to keep it up. We need to pair this support with sanctions and economic pressure, and the EU's 19 seconds package against Russia is another good step in this direction. On both sides of the Atlantic, we want this war to end. And the good discussions this week in Washington, yesterday in the European Council and now in London indicate we are moving in the right direction. Thank you so much.
Mark, thank you so much. Mette, can I come to you?
First of all, thank you, Keir, for hosting us today, and thank you, Volodymyr, for joining us yesterday in Brussels in a meeting with the European Council, and today in the Coalition of the Willing. It was Putin that called President Trump some days ago because he was scared that Ukraine would get the upper hand. Yet he rejected Trump's proposal for a ceasefire along the current front lines, a suggestion that we support, and same goes for you in Ukraine. But Putin doesn't want to stop the killings. There is no indication that Russia and Putin wants peace, not even a ceasefire. And Russia continues its hybrid war against NATO and the West. Today, the Coalition of the Willing, we have agreed to increase the pressure on Russia, agreed that we must find long-term financing of Ukraine's ability to keep fighting, boost Ukraine's defense industry with European financing, finance much-needed US weapons, and to put more pressure on Putin's weak economy with new sanctions. I think this week we have taken significant steps with EU's new sanctions package, targeting Russian energy sector, the shadow fleet, and much more. United States have now sanctioned, as we already have heard, Russia's 2 largest oil companies. And already last week, the UK, announced sanctions targeting those companies as well. I think Putin's strategy has been to wait for us to stop, at some point to give up. But of course, this will never happen. So once again, we have today agreed to be united in our efforts and our promise to to you, dear Volodymyr, and to Ukraine and to all Europeans is that we are willing to continue, of course.
Thank you so much. And then to you, Dick, please.
Thank you, Keir, and thank you for hosting the Coalition of the Willing today. And Volodymyr, thank you for being here as yesterday in the European Council. And both meetings had the same purpose, peace. And in doing so, and making sure that that will happen, we need to keep Ukraine in the fight, as everyone more or less stated today in different words. We need to maximize support to Ukraine. And Ukrainian needs have to be leading in that. What we see is that Russia is the only party rejecting a ceasefire, circumventing all diplomatic initiatives and continuing to attack Ukraine. The only way to persuade Putin to engage in serious talks is to increase economic pressure on Russia and our support for Ukraine. This week, important measures were taken in the EU and the US, and coordination for further steps we could take is necessary. First of all, on sanctions. It would be good if the EU were to copy the US-UK sanctions against Lukoil and Rosneft. We must also do more to dismantle the shadow fleet systems, and the Netherlands will take its part when it comes to the North Sea. This could hit Putin hard financially, as this undermines his revenues on global oil markets. Second is support. It's crucial that all countries contribute. Only then can we maintain a high level of support and keep Ukraine afloat militarily and economically. We must increase military support bilaterally as well as by ordering armed packages from the US, and a couple of the speakers already mentioned the Pearl package. And we must make sure we step up our energy assistance to help Ukraine and the Ukrainians through the winter. We are very concerned with Russia's ongoing attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure before the start of the winter, especially on its domestic gas production. Costs for recovery are high and the need for gas imports have increased. The Netherlands, therefore, will increase financial and material support on energy, and we urge all our partners to consider increasing their contributions as well. We can put more pressure on Putin to end this war if we work even more closely together and widen our impact on Russia. And at the same time, this is the way to create the best possible conditions under which Ukraine is able to negotiate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dick. Thank you, colleagues. We're now going to attempt a Q&A, a five-way Q&A, where we will each be asked a question.